Hi, my name is Alexander. This video is related to NgRx state management in Angular application. Application state typically, it is the date received via API calls, user inputs, application preferences, etc. It is a piece of information held together and can be accessed from different parts of your application. We will create Angular project where we will use NgRx state management to keep the list of projects. NgRx state management is implemented through the set of core concept. Store. Store is a part of the state management that is implemented with a structure of immutable data. In other words, the data contained therein cannot be changed directly. Therefore, all state changed must be done through their actions. These actions define what will be changed in the state through the mechanism called reducer. To use the store in your component, you need to inject the store service and dispatch action. Reducer. The responsibility of the reducer is to process all necessary actions that will change the store's state. It receives as input the current state and the action and returns the new state after the change. Action. The actions are simply objects that represent a change in the state. They are sent to the store with the information that will change the store's state. Selectors. The selectors are functions used to access and get specific information of state stored. Therefore, they allow the components to request any of the data necessary instead of getting directly the complete state of the store. This makes the code more modular, reusable, and easy to maintain. Furthermore, they can make calculation and transformation in the state before delivering to the component that requested it. Effects. The effects refer to functionalities that deal with asynchronous tasks or side effects such as network requests, database access, calls to external APIs, or any operation that is not purely synchronous. In order to update the state inside the store, the application needs to dispatch an action. A reducer, also known as a pure function, catches this action, performs the update on the state, and returns a new revised and immutable state object. In our application, at the beginning, the application state will be filled with the data from the database on the server. After that, a request to the server will be made only if the product is not found in the state, or if the data is deleted by the user from the state by clicking the function clear state. To change application state, we will use the method of entity state adapter to change the application state. In NgRx, some sort of business data is called entity. Entity is defined as a TypeScript type definition. Each entity has a unique identifier field. In our project, application state will contain a collection of entities, and entity adapter will update application state. Entity adapter's methods can change one-to-many records at a time. Each method returns the newly modified state if changes were made, and the same state if no changes were made. Let's start. Let's create a new Angular project. Go to Projects directory. Let's add all required NgRx packages. NgRx store, NgRx entity, NgRx store DevTools, NgRx effects, NgRx router store. In app.module.ts, we have to register store module and effect module. We will create folder superstore and will add three components: products, cars, computers, cafeteria. Let's generate component products. To load components, we will use lazy loading. Therefore, we will create module and routing module for every component. For products component, this command will generate these two modules. Let's check. Yes, we have products routing module.ts, products module.ts. To save your time, let's open already created project. We created Angular application, which loads the list of products from different departments using HTTP call to web API application, and then this list will be stored in the application state. Here we created 4 components on the Superstore folder: cafeteria, cars, computers, products. The components use the same base class product base.ts. We use lazy loading to load each component. That is why we don't load the modules in application module.ts. But in app routing module.ts, we use load children callback in routers array to load each component's module dynamically when user starts loading component using the button or reference to the requested module. When loaded, the component's module loads component's routing module containing the path to the component. And component is loaded in a browser. We already registered store module and effect module in app.module file of the application, but we use lazy loaded modules for the components. How do we plug them into the existing store? Turns out this is pretty easy. To register store and effects for lazy loading components, we have to add these lines in each component.module.ts. Instead of for root, we used methods called for feature, which indicate these are reducers and effects that are being added dynamically after the user visits this particular module. The store module for feature method's first argument is the name of the feature state, which is being used when writing feature-specific selectors. To inject the store service into our components, we have to provide application state interface, which describes the type of data that we will store in NgRx store. The data stored in NgRx store use project state interface. This interface extends entity state interface. Store state container is injected into the components constructor using dependency injection. Under the store folder, we created the following files: actions, effects, reducer, selectors. Actions. In actions, we created actions for load products, get product, add product, delete product, and clear state. Actions are dispatched by the components. In effects and reducers files, we created effects and reducers which listen for the certain actions. In effect, we created effects listen add product and delete product action. In reducers file, we created reducers listen for the actions load product success, load product failure, get product success, get product failure, add product success, add product failure, delete product success, delete product failure, clear state, and clear state error. Selectors. 3 selectors have been created. Product selector to select all products from the application state as observable. Is loading selector to get is loading property of application state as observable. Error selector to get error property of application state as observable. Every time when application components require product or product list, the requested data are selected from application state, and the request to the server-side SQL database is sent only when application state doesn't contain required data. For every request to the SQL database on the server side, the components dispatch appropriate action. Components does not dispatch any action when the data are returned from the application state. When the request for the product list from the products component to the SQL Server database finishes, component dispatches load product success action, and reducer updates application state in the store or in a case of error, just returns current application state. Producers use the methods of entity state adapter to change the application state. When component dispatches add product or delete product action, it requires request to the server database. Effects add product, delete product intercept the actions add product, delete product. Effects execute a request to the server-side database using HTTP service and return a new actions add product success or delete product success after each successful request. In the case of error, effects return a new action add product failure or delete product failure. Based on the action, reducer updates application state in the case of success action or updates error field in application state in the case of failure action. Each component automatically loads the product list using ng after viewing it event. The product list is loaded from the application state if application state contains data. Otherwise, product list is loaded using HTTP request to the SQL Server database. The data are shown in the tables, and above each table we indicate the source of data, application state or SQL Server database. Application state means that data has been received from NgRx store. SQL Server database means that the data has been received from SQL Server database on the server side. The status of every operation is shown in the text area. Server side. On the server side, we have created RESTful API with .NET Core, which in turn communicates with the SQL Server using Entity Framework. The project is very similar to what we created in my previous video, Angular and ASP.NET Core API Part 1, where I provided all the details about the project. In the current project, I have created two new tables in the SQL Server store database. Products, which contains all products at the superstore. The first digit of product's ID field's value contains department number. Other digits represent product's ID in the department. Table product type contains the number and description of every department. The product controller class contains the following asynchronous public methods. Get product list to get whole product list from the products table. Get product types to get the departments from the product type table. Get product to get requested product by product ID. Add product to add a new product to the products table. Delete product to delete product from the products table. And the private method setProduct. This method is used to restore the product object on the server side from the stringified product object which we sent from the client to server in HTTP requests. Let's look at client-side application. Client application contains four components. Product, which is used to get the whole products list from a SQL Server database or from the application state if the application state contains data. Computers, which is used to get the product list from the computers department. Cars, which is used to get the product list from the cars department. Cafeteria, which is used to get the product list from the cafeterias department. Application component page contains the references to the components. We use router link for the products component and router navigate for computers, cars, cafeteria components to load three components by button click. We use lazy loading for each component. It means that Angular application doesn't load all components when application starts, and we load every component by the user request. Each component loads products using ng after viewing it event. Products also can be reloaded using the button Get Products. Every request to the server updates SQL Server database and updates application state on the client side. Application state contains products which have been received from the previous requests to the SQL Server database. In every request to the server, we check connection through the check connection asynchronous method. It uses the fetch method of the window interface, which starts the process of fetching a resource from the network, returning a promise that is fulfilled when the response is available. A fetch promise only rejects when the request fails, for example, because of badly formed request URL or a network error. A fetch promise doesn't reject if the server responds with the HTTP status codes that indicate errors 404, 504, etc. Instead, a then handler must check the response OK and or response status properties. In our case, we check a connection with the server. Therefore, we check only that we receive any response from the server or catch error when server is down. Let's compile and start the client application only and don't start server-side application. Open terminal, NgServer. Oops. This error occurs when our system has disabled the running script and your system cannot accept the ng commands. This error occurs due to security reasons and won't let the script executed on your system without your approval. To solve this problem, we need to follow a few steps. When we run this command, we can see that our system has set all policies for the current user as remotely. It will take a few seconds to complete this process. Now we have to run the second command in our system. When we run this command, our system has a show remote signed. If we have received this message, then our problem will be solved. Now we have to go to the next step to view the list of policy, which policy has been updated by the last commands. To view the policy, we need to run this command in our terminal. When we run this command, a few policies are shown in our monitor screen. We have successfully solved our problem. Let's compile application. And start application. Load products component. After several seconds, in a query status box, we have a notification: server is down. Close client-side application. Start server-side application. Restart client-side application. Click Products to load Products component. When Load Products component loads all products from SQL Server database based on the code under NgActiveUnit event. Clean up application state. Try to retrieve all products by clicking the button Get Products. The list of products appears in a table. Data source is SQL Server database. To get product from product ID, we don't use effects. We use asynchronous HTTP request to the SQL Server database, which returns promise, and when the request finishes, application dispatches get product success action to update the application state. Let's clean up application state and try to get product by product ID. The table below shows that the items has been loaded from SQL Server database. Now we have only one item. In this request, application checks that application state contains this product and returns it from the application state. Only if application state doesn't contain the requested product, the request is sent to the server database. Because we cleaned up application state, the products is retrieved from SQL Server database. Look at the label above the table. At the same time, product ID added to application state repository. And that is why, when we repeat the same request, the product is delivered from the application state. Open SQL Server database. Add new product. The product is inserted into SQL Server database and application state is updated. Try to add the same product again. In a query status, we receive a message: cannot insert the record with ID 141, violation of primary key constraint. The statement has been terminated. Delete product. The product deleted from SQL Server database and from the application state. When we load other components, each component will try to load the product list for its department from the application state. If application state doesn't contain any products for the department, the product list is loaded from the SQL Server database or the HTTP request to the server. Currently, application state contains one product from the department 1, cafeteria. Therefore, when we load the product list for cafeteria component, only this product will be loaded from the application state. But when we load computers or cars component, all the products from the appropriate departments will be loaded from SQL Server database because application state doesn't contain any products for this department. When we load products component, we will receive the list of products which exists in the application state, which consists of all products from the computers and cars departments and only one product for the cafeteria department. To get all products, user can clean up application state by pressing the button Clear State, and can make a request to the server side by clicking the button Get Products. As we can see, all products are loaded from the SQL Server database. The same approach works for every component. NgRx state management allows significantly reduce the number of HTTP requests to the server side, because the data can be retrieved from the application state repository. And this data can be used by any component of the application. NgRx state management improves the performance of Angular application. That's it, what I wanted to show you in this video. Subscribe to my channel and have a good day. Bye.